Hello, and welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be covering topics under the standard 5.1 in 6th grade and also under the Study Island lesson that's entitled Create and Interpret Graphs. So we're going to be looking at bar graphs, line graphs, circle graphs, picture graphs, all those different types of graphs and being able to read information from them. So when we're going through that, you're going to want to make sure that you're taking some notes so that you know the difference between a bar graph and a histogram, for example. And you're also going to want to try some problems out on your own, and you can do that by pausing at the beginning of the question, work the problem out from yourself, show all of your work, and then watch the video to see if we get the same answer. So I'm so glad that you joined us today, and let's go ahead and take some notes.
Here are the first types of graphs you're going to have to know. The first one is a line graph, and it's used to show change in data over time. So that means you're typically having some sort of time down here, whether it's months, days, hours, minutes, seconds, and then how you're able to do something over that time. And then a bar graph is used to compare categories of data, and sometimes you're going to see the bar graphs going horizontal, and sometimes you'll see them going vertical also. And so here, categorical data means not numbers, so types of snacks, favorite colors. The next graph is a circle graph, and it's used to show data as part of a whole using percentages. So you can, and it also helps to visually see, which one is the biggest chunk, which one's the smallest chunk. And you notice here they're all in percentages. A pictograph is used to show data that can easily be modeled in parts or parts of units. So if you don't have decimal numbers, you don't have fractions, you could use a pictograph. And so here, every picture graph is also going to have a key that tells you what each picture represents. The next two types of graphs are histogram and Venn diagram. A histogram is a special type of bar graph that depicts the frequency of events in various classes. So in this example here, you can see that there's a range at the bottom of each bar. And then a Venn diagram is two overlapping circles or ovals that is useful for showing relationships between graphs. So here, you're trying to compare whales and fish, so you can see their similarities and their differences. Let's go ahead and look at our first example. It says the meteorologist kept track of the amount of rain which fell when a very large storm came through the country. The total rain amounts are listed in the table below for the first 8 hours of the storm. So then it wants to know, we have this table and which line graph matches the information. So you're looking for a line graph where it has the points at 1 1/8, 2 1/3, 3 2/3. So I'm just going to go ahead and start checking each one. And so 1 1/8, that one checks out. 2 1/3, so I go to 2 hours and 1/3, that one checks out. So 3 2/3, that one checks out because it's above 1/2. 4 1, so I go to time 4, and then a height of 1 inches, that one is not correct. It's too high. It's up in 1 1/4, so it can't be W. So then I just check the next one. So back at 1 1/8, so we have 1 hour and 1/8. That one checks out. We have 2 hours, 1/3 inch fell. So we go to 2 hours and 1/3, that checks out. 3 2/3, 3 2/3 checks out. 4 1, that one checks out this time. 5 1/8, 1 1/8. That one's at 1 1/4, not 1 1/8, so it's not going to be X. So let me just check out the next one. So we have Y. 1 1/8 checks out. 2 1/3 checks out, and then 3 2/3 checks out, but 4 1, that one doesn't check out again. So if I go to 4 hours and up to 1, it's just a hair above that. So that one doesn't check out, so it's not going to be Y. And so that leaves us with Z, so that should be the answer, but it's always good to check it out too. So 1 1/8, 2 1/3, 3 2/3, 4 1, so far so good. 5 1 1/8, 6 1/4, excellent. 7 1 2/3, and 8 2, all those points do check out. So my final answer is going to be Z, which is choice C. This problem here says Blue Springs Elementary held a reading challenge for the fall semester. 120 students were asked how many books they read throughout the semester. Which of the following graph shows the information given in the chart? So I'm just matching this chart to which of these histograms. So I'm looking for a bar above 0 to 3 that shows 60 students. But now when I go and look at these, I notice that they converted them to a fraction. So that means I'm going to have to do the same thing, and I can't just look for 60. So I know there was a total of 120. So from 0 to 3, that's going to be 60 students out of a total of 120. And then I need to reduce that fraction. So when I reduce that fraction, I can divide each of those by 60. 60 divided by 60 is 1, and 120 divided by 60 is 2. 60 is half of 120, so it reduces to 1/2. So that means for my 0 to 3 bar, I need a green bar here that goes to 1/2. And if I look here, this one goes to 1/5, this one goes to 3/5, this one goes to 1/4, and this one goes to 1/2. So this is the only one that has that first bar correct. So that means this one's probably going to be my answer. But I want to go ahead and check these last two, and I see they're both 30. So that means I only have to do that once. So I'm going to take 30 over 120 and reduce that. And you can divide each of those by 10 because they are both end in 0. So 30 divided by 10 is 3, and 120 divided by 10 is 12. And I could reduce that any further because they can both be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that means each of my other bars should go to 1/4, which they do here. So it definitely checks out, and my final answer is going to be D for choice D, and that's my final answer. So this next problem deals with a picture graph, and that pictograph below shows the number of fire hydrants in each of the 4 towns. And it gives us the key that each picture of a fire hydrant represents 8 fire hydrants. So how many fire hydrants are in Pearl? So I'm going to have to count by 8s. So I'm going to have 8, 16, 24, and then I have half a fire hydrant. So half of 8 is 4, so 24 plus 4 is 28. So there's going to be 28 fire hydrants in Pearl, which is choice A. Miss Starr's 5th grade class has a total of 24 students. 12 of the students are in band, 18 are in choir. So which of the following Venn diagrams shows the above data? So there's going to be some students, and we don't know how many, that are going to be in band and choir. However, we know that when we are looking at band, there's going to be 12 in the band circle. And when we're looking at choir, there's going to be 18 in the choir circle. So in the choice A here, in the band, I have 12 and 6. So 12 plus 6 is 18, but I only need 12 total in the band circle, so it can't be A. So I'm going to look at choice B. In the band circle here, I have 18 plus 6. So this Venn diagram is saying that there is 24 students in band total, and I only need 12 according to the problem, so it can't be B. So then I'm going to move on to choice C. Choice C here in the band circle, I have 6 and 6, which is 12, so that checks out. And then in my choir circle, I have 6 and 12. 6 plus 12 is 18 total, so that one checks out also. So my final answer here is going to be C. Okay, in this problem here, we're looking at a bar graph, and it wants to know how many students in 6th grade students had a bologna sandwich. So I'm going to go over here to my key, and it shows that the red bars are the ones that the 6th grade students. And down here on my labels, I have bologna. So I'm going to look at the red bar under bologna. because that's going to tell me the 6th grade Bologna students. And so when I go up to the top of this bar, I see it hits this line here, and I go over, and that line is 25 students. So that means 25 students in 6th grade had a bologna sandwich, which was going to make my final answer B. In number 6 here, we have a circle graph, and you notice all the numbers are percents. And it says the circle graph above represents the results of 7th grade student body president elections. If 300 students voted, how many students voted for Mila? So I go over here and I see Mila is this light gray. So that means the light gray portion here represents 14% of the circle. So that means it's going to represent 14% of the students that voted. And so I know a total of 300 voted, so to find 14% of that, I'm going to have to multiply that by 14%. Only I can't multiply by a number when it's in percent form. I have to convert that 14% to decimal form. And so to convert that to decimal form, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And that means I'm going to be multiplying by 0.14. And so I just go ahead and work that out. And now I'm going to multiply every number by 1. And then I can add those up. And I get 4200, but remember there was a decimal in my problem. So I'm going to have to count out how many decimal places there were in both numbers. There was 0 in the first number and 2 in the second one. So that means I'm going to have 2 decimal places in my answer. So my decimal goes there, and I don't have to write these zeros. My number is just 42 votes. So it's going to be choice D as my final answer. Now this problem here is dealing with a tally chart. It says, in the school cafeteria, the workers kept a tally of the number of hot lunches, sandwiches, salads, milk cartons, and juice boxes the students ordered during the first lunch period. So how many more hot lunches were ordered than milk cartons? So when you are using tallies, you tally until you get to 4, and then you put a slanted one. So anytime I see a group with a slant tally through it, I know that's a group of 5. So I'm going to look at hot lunches, and I can count by 5s. So 5, 10, and then 11, 12. So hot lunches, there was 12 of those, and then I do the same thing for milk cartons. So milk cartons here, I have a group of 5. So there's going to be 5 milk cartons, and then I just subtract those 2 numbers. And 12 minus 5 is 7. So that means there's going to be 7 more hot lunches than milk cartons, which is choice B. My last problem here deals with a histogram, because you notice the intervals at the bottom of the bar graph. And so the histogram below shows the discounted items in a clothing store. How many more items are discounted by 20 to 29% than 30 to 39%? So that means I'm going to look at my green bar to see what the 20 to 29%, how many there were. I go to the top of that bar and over, and there's 7 of those. And then I do the same thing for 30 to 39%. I go to this light blue bar that represents 30 to 39%. I go to the top and I go over, and I see that that represents 3 items. So then I just subtract those numbers, and 7 minus 3 is 4, which is a total number of items, which is choice A, my final answer. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new.